First of all, I thank you for doing this from an undisclosed location on roadside in Brooklyn, and not the first time it's happened on this show, and not the last. Thank you to technology, interviews, chats can be had at any location. But you are a singer. I mean,
Yes.
we've been talking for 2 minutes now, or I've been talking. You are a singer. I mean, introduce yourself to everybody, and then we'll get started, man.
Awesome. So I'm David Sosa. I am Puerto Rican. I am from Queens, New York. Originally from Long Island, born and raised. And I just, been singing for a long time and made sure that I took the avenues of learning my craft and my voice and various types of music. And I released an album September of 2020 called Journey to Love. And I've been happy with it. It actually debuted at number 3 on the top 100 R&B albums of
Oh,
iTunes. And I was pretty excited about that because I had no push by any record label. I had no, this was just support from people and people that were interested and friends and family and other people who were interested that were getting exposed to my music. So I was just really humbled by it, but also was pushed to do more, and really put my music and my art out there.
yeah. I mean, getting a little bit of success makes you want to just work at it even more, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I've never been nowhere near the top 1,000 on the R&B chart or anything like that. But so I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
But and sorry if we have to rehash a little bit of what we went over on Thursday.
no problem.
How did you get into singing, man? I mean, all of us, most of us have a dream of singing. We sing in the shower, sing in the closet terribly. I annoyed my brother and sister and my mom telling me to shut the fuck up because I was going through puberty at the time too. So I was like, ah! Like it was a
The Peter
fucking
Brady crack.
the Peter Beatty. What is that?
The Peter Brady crack. That was
Oh
like the
yeah,
old
when
thing.
he's going through puberty.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been singing since I think as earliest that has been recorded was about a year and a half of me, just singing, not like to myself mostly, to TV, to just keep myself entertained, which I still do, and many shower concerts later, and all sorts of things. My parents were just pushing me to just be better, and my father eventually had put me into music lessons or singing lessons, I should say, by a woman named Lillian Karan from Smithtown, Long Island, and she was an old Broadway lady. Like she had done a lot of understudy and off Broadway and even some Broadway stuff. Um, and she just had like pictures all over her house with like Lucille Ball and like Ethel Merman and like the greats of the old, what's her name, B. Arthur. Like I mean, just these random people that and she like worked amongst them. So she was really
Sounds like a
about
very Long Island home. Lucille Ball, Beale Arthur,
Really about second.
and that was the one thing that was interesting that you mentioned on Thursday, and I think the same thing. B said the same things that your father really pushed you into the arts, which is really different and exciting. And I mean, because so many times, especially in Latino culture, it's your parents and especially your dad, or usually your dad, for whatever reason, that says no. That's a silly. Don't teaches keeps you from chasing dreams of like, especially in entertainment. But it was really awesome to see that it was actually your dad who's like, hey, if you're serious about doing this, not only will I encourage you, I'm gonna give you the tools or help you get those tools to really make this a reality. Is your dad still with us around?
Yes, dad is still with us. Basically, I don't know, these things stopped working for some reason. I don't know what happened, but
No, I can still hear you.
that's my thing. But basically it's I don't know, he just made sure to just really instill in me the notion of learning different music. And he would show me just old LaBelle records where Patti LaBelle was singing "Oh Danny Boy." He's like, "This is old Irish songs." He's like, "But the fact that she was able to sing it, he was like, and sing it maybe in her fashion, like never do things to like imitate people, definitely be yourself. But so he really like, and he delved into these like different things of music as somebody who loved music, who loved to sing, but never really wanted to pursue it professionally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he would get around with the boys and they'd have a couple of beers and start singing doo-wop songs and like, up on the roof and under the boardwalk and all these other type of stuff, And so it was pretty interesting. It was a pretty interesting deal to be, raised around that and be, pushed towards that and encouraged all at the same time,
Yeah.
So by the time I got to school, I started doing the state competitions and the county competitions and competing, in opera and in jazz and in various other, things of that nature. So it's been pretty cool.
It's kind of, isn't it like a almost like a tradition in music where, how many famous singers, their dad either was I don't want to say failed musician because they were musicians, but they just didn't, they had a dream and they never really got to that. I'm thinking of Selena's dad. I'm thinking of Michael Jackson's dad. I'm thinking of, all these people who they were musicians and for whatever, they had to work or whatever, maybe they were ahead of their time. It was harder for a Latino or a black person to make it in the industry than it is today. And there's that saying of like, a son is destined to like carry out their father's dreams. I mean, did you ever think of that? Do you think of that now? Or I mean, what does your dad think of you being
like that?
What does your dad think of you being, number 3 on the R&B chart?
Super proud, super proud. And he actually, is taken aback when I do interviews and I bring him up and I think parents sometimes they do what they want to do, what they have to do, and they don't really know how much I guess their kids appreciate it and or will. And so he's still taken aback at the fact that I mentioned him so much in some of the stuff, but he was very instrumental in my musical journey, like exposing me to so much and putting a work ethic even in me, outside of just music, but really implanting that. But I actually never thought about it as far as like living through the, father's dreams or anything like that. I don't know if he ever wanted to sing professionally per se, but he definitely loved to do it. So I think I just took the torch in that level and took the next step. You know what I mean?
Right.
He went that route.
And you said you were listening to LaBelle. I mean, so like, when's the earliest you could remember that music had a real effect on you? And you were like, oh, wow, this is, you had the stars in your eyes. Like maybe you saw somebody perform and you were like, wow, that is magic. I want to do that.
I want to say as early as 7 or 8, I think.
Wow.
I was like, I want to sing. Like, and I listen. I remember. I think we kind of talked about it briefly on Palante, but I had listened to, I think like it was Mariah Carey, I think at one point, and it was like Shy or something. Yeah, it was like Shy, very first time, and I remember just singing those songs, and I was like, this is it. Like I like doing this, and I think other people noticed I love doing it, and that I did well at it, and so a lot of family and friends would be like, oh, sing that song, or do this song real quick, or what's that part of the song that, and like I would just sing it, and they'd be like, yeah, that, like it just became a thing, and even like in high school, like it was a way to kind of avoid bullying in a lot of ways. Like you definitely had people that tried it, here and there. But like it was more so just a way like people knew me as that singer. Like they were just always like, oh my God, what's that Mariah joint? Or what's that song that this dude sings, Jesse Powell? Like it was always something. And I was just always in that and singing through the hallways, and it became part of my everyday social life.
Yeah, you actually owned it, you know what I mean? And that's really, I mean, how many people have show a talent? How many kids show a talent and they get bullied for it just because they're to show a talent means you're different, and then you get bullied for being different, even if you're different in a good way, right? And how many kids like bury that talent, but it looks like you owned it, man.
A lot of people do. I've seen it everywhere. I've seen people just it becomes the passion for the minute. It's like, oh, I'm in school, I know I sing well, it's another thing to pass time. And maybe in those moments there's dreams of grandeur and whatever the case, and it's really whatever. But then there's always that step. There's always that, does it really leave you? And I think some people are like, a lot of people, my father thought this for a little bit too. He's like, it's not realistic, or it's a very competitive field, have a craft. And then by the time you get consumed with a 9 to 5,
Yeah.
And you get so consumed in it that you start believing that. You start believing that, oh, that was a high school dream. It was a wet dream. You know, it was a
Yeah.
pipe dream. It was something that was like, ah. And now you're singing in showers, and you're singing at, you know, an event here and there, like the family barbecue or something. Like it becomes that, and it's fine. Like that's ways of expressing yourself, right?
Right.
But I don't know, there's a commitment to the music, and I feel that on like a divine purpose sort of way, it will get you. It will drive you crazy by not doing it. You will feel a certain kind of way for not doing it, and it will bug you. And opportunities will keep presenting itself for you to do what it is you love to do, because that's what you're supposed to be doing.
That's beautiful. I mean, like, one, you know, comedians will say the same thing. Like, you know, they know so many people who are way funnier than them in their family, in their circle of friends, and they'll, you know, their friends or family will say, "Oh man, you're so funny," and the comedian will say, "No, you're way fucking funnier than I am." And it's just that they, you know, that person doesn't want to go on the road. They don't want to. They don't want to do the sacrifice. They don't want to do the hard work, right? They don't want to put themselves out there, grind it in, grind it out.
Absolutely.
And two, I mean, you know, I'm chasing a different dream. You know, writer. Now it began as a writer. Now nobody reads. I still write, but nobody reads anything anymore. So now I've had to like shift into this media landscape. And you know, yeah, like what you said really struck a nerve with me, is that if you don't do it, it's going to torture you, right? It's going to kill you. And that's, for me, that's a good enough reason to chase a dream. Like, because the pain, the remorse you will feel if you don't do it, is worse than trying and failing, right?
It
So,
is.
I mean, how do you go from, you know, we're talking about chasing dreams, right? So how do you go from being the guy who was a great singer in high school to, let's start with launching into a music career? What are the steps? Like, people want to know this, right?
I mean, I wish I could give someone a play-by-play, because from my experience, like after high school and being confronted with several ideas of what music was supposed to be. See, music was always brought to my table. I didn't have to bring myself to it. So high school's giving you these opportunities here and there. You're gonna compete for this. You want this solo, blah blah blah. Like you're consistently on the. Once high school ends, that's it, right?
Yeah.
So I had an
It's kind of like
opportunity.
gym, right? Like when in high school, there's gym, right? And you're staying in shape. And then I remember after high school ended, I didn't go to gym anymore, and I gained weight. I'm like, what's going on? And I realized there's no
Right.
gym anymore.
Seriously.
You got to be in charge of
Seriously.
your own health
And that's what it is. You become in charge of your own, you know, the whole
development.
thing, your own destiny, so to speak, and your adulting. And so it became very interesting, because I had to now wonder, like, what was I going to do with this gift? Like, I didn't know. At the time, I was in a boy group. It was 3 Puerto Rican guys.
What was the name of it?
We were called Tres. We were called Trace, you know, Tres. And we had started singing a lot of local places, and we were doing that for a while. And I mean, even hiring choreographers and doing the whole boy band thing, like it was the thing. And we went to local places in, you know, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, and we were doing
What
stuff.
year?
And
What years were this? What year?
What?
What year was this?
This was, oh God, 2000, probably like from 98 to 2001,
Mm-hmm.
I would say. And we were just doing it and doing it and doing it. And then, you know, the usual stuff with groups. One person doesn't want to do it no more. They have their reason. The other person, and you just can't make that work either. Personal stuff is happening. And so I found myself trying to write my own music. I found myself trying to sing my own music, but I didn't have all the tools. I still was unlearned. Out of fear blocked me in a lot of ways in my life. Even with the gift, you have fear. As much as I was told how amazing I was, as many high scores I got on all the competitions, I still had a fear I wasn't good enough. Right. And I stopped myself. I never auditioned for New School, which I was supposed to, which had just opened their music program, which was supposed to be like really good at the time. I never auditioned, never went. So I don't know how that would have been if I would have learned more theory and whatever the case may be. But yeah, I found myself doing off-Broadway shows, doing a lot of like little, you know, auditions and stuff, and singing and roles, and then doing backup work for people. I was doing a lot of background singing for people, a lot of hooks from rappers and songs I couldn't stand to listen to. Really bad stuff.
But that's the experiment. Actually, you need to get in somehow, right? It's better to be developed. Can you do me a favor and move your camera a little to the right, because you're getting glare from the sun. you're in a boy band, and like you said, I was just listening a couple weeks ago, like that being in a band, anything artistic when it's like collaborative, where it's a bunch of people like making a movie. I think that's what I was listening to. It's so fucking hard because you have to all be on the same wavelength, have the same artistic vision, and just get along with each other, like each other, and have the same drive, show up on time, all
Facts.
that stuff.
It's facts. It was a lot of trying to think of how to say it. It wasn't. We were good when we were good. Like obviously we're really good. But honestly, I realized later. So many realizations I had because of music. You know, I realized I was in bands because I was afraid to be in the center.
Mm.
So I was like, as great as I could do, as I would step up to the front of the mic, do my part, get the applause, and scoot right back in the middle and let somebody else step in the front. And it was a lot of fear. I had a lot of fear behind that. And a lot of people said later, like, you know, it's fear of being great or whatever, but I just felt like I couldn't do it. I just felt like I didn't like all the attention on me. You know, I was always the chubby kid too. You know what I mean? I'm still a big boy. So things of people looking at me like freaked me out.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I carried a lot of that too. And so it was just a lot, you know what I mean? But it wasn't until maybe probably about 4 years ago when I was just like, nope, I need to do my own music. Like people around me that I love, who I think are super talented, are doing amazing work. And I'm sitting here recording for the sake of just recording. I'm doing nothing with this music. It's just sitting there on a hard drive somewhere. And for what?
I mean, and so you were that. I mean, you talk about the body image. We've talked about that before on other episodes. I mean, is it that it's got to be a combination of things, right? You're Latino. I mean, again, we could talk about whatever you want, but I mean, I noticed that you were, Solar Tree made you Pride Artist of the Day, so you are a proud gay man, right? I mean, I don't know how you identify, but and I wanted to ask you something about that because, like, Frank Ocean to me is probably the best. And no offense, because I know you guys are in like direct competition because he's an R&B singer too, right? But he's probably like the best R&B singer right now, or of the last 10 years. And I noticed that when he came out after what? I mean, he made that one song. He made a couple songs. Then he came out, right? And his career, like people just weren't feeling him anymore. That it's still hard for an openly gay artist to be out there, right? And that's crazy because like you see, Pride Month, and you see how like LGBT is celebrated in corporate America, but it's still very hard for an out artist in any genre, any kind of art form to be out. And why is that? I mean,
that can delve into a lot of things. First and foremost, we have to understand colonial mindset.
Here we go.
And that's the reality. Once you get into colonial mindset and what othering is and what you needed to do to maintain order, to produce people, and that's really what it came down to. I think the mortality rates of certain people, of ancient groups, and then also the idea of colonization, in which case breeding meant more laborers. So the idea of homosexuality became a threat to the idea of population control, population of building, and whatever the case may be. And I think people ran with that. Even now, you're seeing more and more talk now, and we throw into the colonization, dare I have to say it, Christianity. And Christianity, through a colonized mindset specifically, starts to become something. So now we look at, you're seeing a lot more Bible critics now, or theologians, I should say, not even Bible critics. Theologians now are even challenging how things were interpreted. That some of these words from Hebrew to Greek to Aramaic to all these different things, and they don't have a context within the culture that we're speaking from. So to have it written in English wouldn't make sense. And I tell people this with language, like it's not to get into a biblical conversation at all, but look at some of the words we use. I say come mierda, right?
Yeah.
If you try to say that in English, it's not going to mean the same and make the same sense as somebody going to say in a context of who's Puerto Rican or Latino, right?
Yeah. It
It's
just sounds
stuff like
worse in
that.
English.
So,
In English, it sounds, eat shit or shit eater.
eat
Like,
shit, right?
yeah,
Versus somebody who's stuck up and who
yeah,
thinks who they are.
yeah.
So that's just a perfect example of how, without cultural context, you don't know what that really means.
Yeah.
So when you start translating things, it becomes something else. So now we're seeing that homosexuality wasn't really written about in the same context in the Bible. It was actually talking about pedophilia in some cases and other things. And so I think all this has filtered down into our people of color, people who were colonized, and all these fears of having to be a certain way and live under certain conditions. These things keep on. It's generational trauma.
It's crazy that, homosexuality is so, it's still, even in the arts, is like, it's still taboo. It's still a thing because, like, I mean, it has to be gay people of men and women or non-binary who have been leading art for thousands of years, right? It's the same thing with black people, right? Like racism is still a thing, right? Black people are, bottom of the barrel as far as the racial status, whatever. But who's making all the music, right? Who's making all the culture? It's the global culture is black culture, right? You and I love R&B, that's, that comes from slavery, and we're descendants of slaves, right? And it's so funny that it sounds like just like with Latino immigrants and labor, just like with black people and art and culture. Same with gay people. Like, they want your art and the things you create and your performances, but they don't want you. It's so bullshit. Like,
It's caca.
what do you think what kind of world are you gonna get if you get rid of gay people, black people, and Latinos?
A boring one, a very bland, unseasoned, boiled, boring one.
Mayonnaise
The
sandwiches.
reality is, and then we talk about the music industry on top of that, who feeds into all of that, and making people products. You're talking about a brand. You're calling people brands. Once you start talking about people as brands and their artistry, you're already knocking it way out of the context by which it's meant to be. So that's why, like, when they create images for people, I mean, look at Whitney Houston, look at Mariah Carey, even. Like, once they wanted to be themselves, nobody wanted them.
Yeah.
We wanted the person we fell in love with initially, that was America's sweetheart, that was all that. And what happens with gay folk who have to play a closeted person or a sexual orientation as ambiguously a person, once they want to be themselves or they get found out, it's a whole big thing. Which is why I was very conscious. I'm like, you know what? I'm not putting myself out there as I'm an LGBTQ artist, but I'm also not quiet about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, my thing is that I'm many things all at once, and I'm all these things, right? And so I get to stand in my truth. I get to be who I'm gonna be. Get to sing the songs I want to sing from the get, and I'm not interested in dumbing myself down or changing myself to edit some idea that anyone else wants. I think that time is over. I think that ideology is toxic as hell.
Toxic as
And
for
so
everybody.
as an indie artist, I have that freedom. I have the freedom to make literally any music I want and sing about any subject matter, whoever I love and or don't love, and be okay with it.
The brand thing again is hitting me. I mean, you're an artist, so you want to be yourself in your individual self and all your complexity and nuance. And then you have an industry, your industry, and then my separate industry. They're doing the same thing to us. Okay, but what's your brand? Think of your image. What are you selling? They're trying to make us into cereal, right? Like,
Just literally.
what kind of what flavor marshmallows are you? No, I'm a human being. What's up?
Crunch berries.
Dude, my wife loves fucking Captain Crunch. I'm like, dude, it fucking tears up my mouth, man. Like, I want to,
It's okay. It's okay.
I get the closest I get to that is the Reese's Puffs, which is kind of like or the Reese's Captain Crunch. But yeah, I mean, so do you think that we're entering a world where, like, nuance and individuality, I mean, is going to be accepted? I mean, I think I want to believe that, but I think there's a small minority that's moving towards that. But the public has been taught to not know what to do with nuance, and they just want brands. They want to know who David Sosa is before they even listen to your songs. They want to know what you're about before they go listen to your songs, and that's bullshit. It's the enemy of art.
It's a lot, but I mean, I think once you're standing in the who you are, it is what it is. It presents itself. It is like I don't have a problem talking in front of anybody. I know how to articulate how it is I feel and what I think. I have no problem, singing in front of people if I need to sing, obviously, or having a rough discussion that may make people uncomfortable. Like I don't have those are things that are part of adulting, and it comes again in standing in your truth. And I think the more we can give that, the more we can encourage that, hold spaces for that, it's going to change the game on a personal level so that that can be accepted relatively everywhere. Frank Ocean, he came out the particular kind of way, I guess maybe somewhat like Lil Nas X, in that they were quiet about it until they weren't, or until it came out, and then they decided, let's run with it and let's do something with it and go with it, right? But there's artists now like Duran Bernard, I don't know if you know who he is, who's a very flamboyant gentleman, and he sings his entire ass off, and he does not care what anybody thinks. He comes out here wearing whatever he wants to do, and people are eating it up. People are eating it up, myself included. Like, we're just so happy to see people who want to just be themselves, and who want to do their own music, and who want to sing their own songs, and very well. And honestly, they could put that man against any straight artist right now, and he'll sing them under the table.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of Freddie Mercury, and the fact that, like, if you go to like a football game, there's all these butch, probably Republican homophobic men singing "We Will Rock You" or "We Are the Champions," not knowing that Freddie Mercury was the most flamboyant, gay, bisexual man, just sexually fluid man in the world, right? And he could sing anybody under the table.
Literally.
Yeah. That's how much talent is, talent should supersede any stupid, first of all, prejudices are stupid, right? So, but talent should supersede, you should wake you up to be like, yeah, this person's talented, I should see their humanity. But there's still people, who, this whole cancel culture thing, like, where, a lot of it is legitimate, right? But some people, again, they don't care about the creations or the products. They want the person that they're getting it from to be a certain way to fit in the box that they're creating, and it's bullshit. But we'll move off. I don't want to talk too much about that. Thank you for sharing that. Let's get back to your, to your music and your art. Like, one thing I want to know is, because from my own personal experience and knowledge, tell me about those moments where, like, you were on the verge of quitting, right? I mean, we're as creators, artists, you're in a moment where, even with this passion that that if you don't do it, it's gonna kill you. The industry is tough. Talk to me about, like, some of the challenges. Just being, being a singer is so, we all see singers, but we don't know anything as a layperson. We don't know what it's like to be a singer.
Right. I mean, I definitely got tired. I would say it was probably around 2000 and maybe 8 or 9. And I was singing with another group, me and the groups. I was singing with another group, and just realized that renting a space and singing in a place that you had to fill it up with a certain amount of people in order to not pay and rent out that space, even though they were still going to make their money off of 2 drinks minimums and overpriced drink minimums and all that stuff, right? And it became all that, and you're signing contracts. At the end of the day, you had to pay all your band members at least a good portion each, and then you come and you count whatever you made from ticket sales, and it's barely enough to cover anything, and or you have to use a good portion of it to pay back the place, depending on how many people came, right? And all that stuff was happening, and I'm working full time, and I'm trying to sing, and I'm trying to make it. And I said, you know what? I'm tired. And in that time period, my voice also changed. I always had a super duper high voice. I used to be able to sing Prince and Philip Bailey from, like, Earth, Wind, and Fire, no problem. Full Mariah notes and stuff, like, no problem, I got it. Never was an issue. Then all of a sudden, like, my 26th year, my voice was just like, boy. And I'm like, wait, what just happened? Like, I'm like, I already went through puberty. What's going on? You know, but this whole change happened in my voice. And it was like, I got depressed with that. Cause I was like, well, damn, like I can't sing anymore like I used to. I can't, you know, go these places I used to go. And I had to like relearn it all. And you know, I wasn't even relearning it then. It was just, it felt more like a struggle with the gift at that point. I felt very resentful for it. I felt like whatever. I was in a horrible relationship. So all this time stuff is happening. I'm writing though. During this time, I'm writing. And the music on this album was during this breakup time and all this craziness that was happening. Like that's where the majority of this album stuff came from. And eventually I stopped. It was for a whole 2 years. For 2 years, I stopped singing professionally. I just like, I don't want to do nothing with music. I'll sing in the shower. You know, I did that thing, like I said. And then I got an opportunity. I went to go, a friend of mine was going to sing at a church. I went to that church and met two pastors, and they had heard us sing. Me and that other gentleman were in a group together. They heard us sing, and they were like, "Oh my God, we remember you guys singing, blah, blah, blah. We're going to open our own church. Would you like to come sing?" And I was like, me and church, not always been the greatest, you know. History-wise, I'm spiritual. I pray at home, you know, I'm one of those. And they were like, all right, you know, just come and audition. It's not that type of church, blah, 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 blah. So I went and auditioned, and I was like, you know what? Boom, I made the audition, and I said, you know what? I'll stick to doing this because at least I get to do my music. I get to do some type of singing or something.
Right.
But it's also not a commitment that requires me paying money and having to do this sort of thing. I was really done with that. I did not realize I joined the Celebration Spiritual Center, is what it's called, in Brooklyn. And I did not realize that some of the most important lessons I was going to get about my music at all. And all the years I had been singing, I was going to get crammed into about 3 years.
Like what? Like this is right after you're about to almost quit, right? That's crazy.
Literally. I didn't realize it. It was so. Is it better now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. All right.
So you started singing at the church. This is right after you were about to quit, and you learned the lessons of your career so far.
I realized that singing was not pretty sounds. It wasn't about talent as I thought it was, about sounding right and about doing all that I was actually participating in something that was, it was more. It was spiritual. It was something that I was touching people, was causing people to have visceral reactions when I was singing. And I was like, I know I feel these things when I hear good singers. And if I'm able to do this to people, then what I'm doing is something sacred. This is not just pretty sounds anymore. Yeah. So it made me shift my whole thought about what it was I was doing and what the importance of it was, and measuring it with value. And that's when I said, you know what, I can start bringing songs out again and recording and writing and putting this out there, because there's people that need to obviously hear what it is I do and what I have to say. It's not going to be contained to a small church, you know, environment. It has to be more than this. There's a whole world out here.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this before on the show, like that music is the most powerful art form. And as a writer, I'm very jealous of musicians, singers, because, like, you know, no matter anything I write is never going to come close to, like, even like, there's people that we don't know their names, but we can listen to a song of theirs and it's beautiful and it will stay with you. And there's like you said, a visceral response to music, and if you have that gift, then you know you have to share it. And that's kind of what, you know, I don't know. There's that whole idea of the gift and the curse, right? Because once you're given a gift, the curse is actually like, oh, now you got to go and do something with that. And that's not always, like you said, it's not always fun. And plenty of people are given the gift, and because it comes with the curse of having to do something with it and maneuver whatever they have to maneuver and overcome whatever obstacles they have to overcome, they say, well, fuck the gift, whatever. That, you know, it's inspiring to you know, even meet and be able to talk to somebody like you who is, you know, not only chasing the dream, but is, you know, is living it. Like, the other thing is that, like, don't you find that you have to, as you go along, reevaluate, redefine what success is, or achieving your dream is? Because when you were a kid, you was one thing, and now that you're getting closer and closer, and you've worked so far along in your career, the closer you get to your dream, the more it changes into something else, right?
Yeah, I was being prepared. I was really being prepared for this because I had to start looking at ego and fear and all this stuff that was keeping me back from me doing what it is that I love to do and to do it well, right? Because this was more about, like I said, this was less about technicalities of voice, how good you sing, and how it really started becoming less about being a perfectionist about those things per se, and in which case that was a thing, oh, I didn't sing that note right, or I, feeling embarrassed about stuff, when it's like that's not what it's about, right? And about true form of expression. But I realized that in that spiritual journey that I was embarking on through my music, and with my music, that I was like, you know what, I'm successful simply because I completed something I wanted to do. My album is successful. It may never be on any other pop chart. I may not have my songs on anything, on the top 40 of anything. I'm a successful musician and artist because I wanted to put out an album expressing my work, and I did it. I
Yeah.
committed to it, and I completed it. The end. That sat on a shelf somewhere. I'm still successful.
Yeah. And the thing is,
That's
like
what success is for me.
with any kind of art form, and there's also the immense possibility that 10, 20, when you're dead, after you're dead, people pick it up and they go, that I think that's what happened with like Herman Melville. We talk about Moby Dick now, but like in his lifetime, nobody talked about him or Moby Dick or nothing. And it was only after he died that people were like, holy shit, this person did this amazing thing that was not, nobody paid attention to it, and the world fucked up, right? Van Gogh, right? Van Gogh never made a fucking cent selling paintings, and now you think Van Gogh and you think art. Art and Van Gogh go together.
Literally.
It's crazy.
Literally.
But what was the other thing I was going to ask you? The music industry too, right? Like you were saying, like you didn't have any push for your album, right? What's the name of the album? The Journey
to Love.
Journey to Love, and but the music landscape in our lifetimes has changed. The industry, right, where you needed a company to work distribution, right? Really get your this is still part of it, like getting your music on the radio. Even though a lot of people, who listens to radio? A lot of people listen to radio. Like that's an elitist thing. Like I'm from Chicago, everybody listens to the radio. Not everybody can afford satellite. Not everybody's listening to Spotify. Not everybody's aux cord works. They got to listen to FM, right? But there is a democratization of the music industry in that all you got to do is produce yourself, and there's production software. You can have your own studio now in your house, and it sounds as great as like what they were producing in the 80s.
Yep.
And so there's this real, like I said, democratization. But that said, now there's a lot more musicians putting a lot more music. There's probably more music production now than any time in history, right?
Yeah, people being home, absolutely.
And so how do you hook up with, how do you go about making the album? How did you make your album? I mean, how do you are you still going to a studio?
Yes, I'm still working in studios now. Even on my newest work, I've been in Long Island City at Sound Studios, and just been working away at it. This time around, I went with pre-produced tracks versus stuff I built from scratch. I wanted to try to challenge myself to write to music that was already made, because I tend to write and go off the top of my head. Like a melody will come, I'll start humming it, then words start coming, and then I start just writing like a madman, writing all over tissues and anything else I can get in the moment, and then voice noting everything on my phone. And then I have to take that to someone who plays instruments and who gets the sound of it and be like, all right, this is what I got. Let's start writing to this. And then they start chord structures and building, and it becomes a layering of music. And so I built all the songs damn near on my album, but one like that. Everything was layered from the bottom all the way up. This time around, with so many artists out there and so much different type of music, I've been challenging myself to just write to that. So I kind of come there with my music, and I'm like, this is the song I want to write to. Here's the song I already kind of wrote to it. Let's start recording. Let's figure this out. And that's just now, that's what I'm doing now. So like some of my music now has a total different sound than what I just, finished releasing, and a part of that was because what I released was several years old. It was an experience that I had went through well over 14 years ago. And so the sound is different because that's where I was musically and emotionally and everything. And so just releasing it was what the big deal was. The recording it had already been done.
Yeah.
That recording had already been done. I was mostly doing minor tweaks here and there with things and really just pushing it through to get it all leveled and everything. So now I'm writing from a whole different like energy, a whole different place, you know what I mean? And you know, it's still like I said, challenging myself to different types of music I probably would never do.
And how did you find your voice? Like with writing, it's common that, a writer, when they're young, he or she will copy other writers. You have to copy, as an artist, you have to copy your favorite artists because you don't have a voice yet. But then you slowly, they say that, right? A good artist steals from one person, and a great artist or a genius steals from everybody, right? But so who did you who did you grow up like your voice imitating, and then how did you develop your own voice separate from that?
Great question. I don't know. I don't know when I had the aha moment. I know the earliest age I had of really, really writing a song. I think I co-wrote a song at probably around 8 or 9 with my sister. She was like writing songs, and I was like throwing back ideas with her, and I was like, "This would really be good if this was here." And I sang it to her. She's like, "Yeah, it is good," and she like wrote it down. Like it was like one of those moments.
Holy shit.
And then I think I wrote at 16 years old is when I wrote like a song, and I had the idea, and I was with the group at the time, and I was like, like just to show this to anybody. And I kind of like did, and they were like, "Oh my god, like
That's a
this
song.
is good. Let's
That's
do
a song.
something
It's a
with
good
this."
song, yeah.
Right, let's do something with this. And I was like, really? Like, and so it gave me a boost of confidence to just understand the inner dialogue of what I saw in life and what I was feeling musically to put into words and to articulate it. And then I just kind of went from there. I can say consistently the artist I most likely look at their lyrics consistently, and I will always say it's been Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey has been a super duper freaking big thing in my life. Like people, have a lot to say, whatever, but I just think writing wise, even for nothing else, she writes the hell out of some songs and will probably have only heard the nonsense they put on the radio. But like, if you're like a fan like I am, like I could pull out some stuff that's like crazy. So I
I'm
always
a
looked
huge
at her stuff.
I'm not a huge Mariah fan, but I came up we're the same age kind of, right? So
Yeah,
Mariah Carey is the diva, right? And
yeah.
but this might be sacrilege, this might be blasphemy. Does she write her own lyrics?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Her radio hits, like her hits, her 18 number one hits nonsense. Like, yeah, they're all written by her for the majority of the part. Like a good probably 17 of them are really written by just her versus a whole team of people.
Wow.
Like more of her later stuff, she collabed with other writers, but she still always has her pen in hand and everything. But her whole first like 10 to 12 albums, like she's penning this stuff, and some of the most ridiculous lyrics are I've just like you don't even pay attention to it. Sometimes those songs are fast and you like listen to it and you don't understand the verb, like she's using words that I'm like, what the fuck? Let me go to the dictionary and find out what the hell she's talking about. Like,
Yeah.
who uses that word? Like,
Right.
she just does things like that, and it made me think about writing in different ways of like, how do I say something without having to say it blatantly? What's
Yeah.
an artistic way of saying this and getting to this point? And she was huge. She was a huge instrument in that, in how to write something fun and or otherwise, and emote it, get it on paper, and then put it out there.
Yeah, I mean, every time I listen to Fantasy, the second verse, when she starts it off like images of rapture creeping to me
Listen
slowly.
to me slowly.
As a
Like,
writer, I'm like, that's poetry, dude.
Like poetry on that album. She has a song called "Underneath the Stars," which is kind of like, I guess, a lose a virginity type song, and it's just well written. It's like a well written R&B tune, and I've sung it live and I've mashed it up with the Isley Brothers for the love of you. Like, it's such a good. There's just moments she has that I always get annoyed when like people know the radio Mariah, and I'm like, no, nothing you've heard on the radio is even the real good stuff
Yeah,
at all.
It's funny when you know, like, well, I like Gavin DeGraw. I don't know if you know him, but like people will say like, oh yeah, I like Chariot, or I like I Don't Want to Be. I'm like, that's his radio shit, man. You don't know shit, dude.
Literally, it's that, and that's me. Like, I have some nerdy friends, like we'll put her on sometimes and be like, did you hear that? Like, rewind lyrics and be like, who writes that? Like,
I'm the
stuff
same
like
way,
that.
dude. And my wife's
Yeah.
like, I'm not listening to the lyrics. I'm like, what are you listening
What
to?
do you mean you're not listening to the right? What do you mean?
Oh
Yeah,
man, it's so funny.
yeah.
And I was gonna ask you, like, so you sang Mariah. I mean, is that somebody you love to sing? Like, who do you like to sing? Who
I
do you
mean,
sing
both
when you're in the shower? You know?
everybody. I've
Yeah.
sung everybody. I mean, it just depends where the mood hits. I mean,
You
for the
get
most part,
earworms. You wake up singing a song like I do sometimes. And you got to sing it, right? Or else it's gonna be stuck in your head all day.
or I get what's called musical Tourette's. Like somebody will say something and it'll trigger a lyric that I know, and I have to sing it like right then and there. Like it doesn't matter what's happening, and it'll just be like, like, oh yeah, I love to go on a boat. I'm like, the love boat. Like I just have, like, if I don't do that, it's just not gonna, like, I have to get it out of me, But yeah, I sing everybody. It just depends. I've sung jazz standards in the shower. I'll sing
What's the
gospel
hardest?
songs in the
I mean,
shower.
obviously, I think opera would be hardest, right? But like, just
Opera's hard because you got to really know your body. You got to really listen to your body when you're singing
they're
opera.
like
Opera is
athletes, right?
not-
People say like, Pavarotti was a fat motherfucker, but he was actually an athlete, bro, right? Like
No.
he had.
You want to talk about breath control, and the funny thing is, everything they teach you for meditation, guided meditations, and things of that nature is what they teach you for music. It's literally the breathing control and learning how to like support your whole body, and your whole body gets energized and or relaxed based on your breathing. And so, like,
Because your
one of
body's
the
the
things-
instrument.
they'll teach you, like, you hold notes and then decrescendo, which is just get really, really soft while still holding the note, and then belt it out. So, like, let's just say it's something like, ah, so you learn how to like how to give dynamic structure to certain things and stuff, and then like crazy exercises where you're like, you breathe in so you can't breathe no more, and then you release on a small hiss of an S sound, and then you just, so that rides all the way out, and you just feel your lungs just filling up and capacity. So by the time you're ready to sing, you can hold a note out for like however long you really need to and can, and like it's all those things. But opera is very body structure. You have to stand a certain way. You have to pay attention to your body, or your mask of your face is what they call it. So different parts of your voice, how far you're opening up. Where other music, those techniques are present, but they're not as, you don't have to be as hard body and hardcore about them. That's why I don't sing opera no more. It was rough.
Man,
That was rough.
I keep forgetting what I was gonna say because I get so like caught up into what you are saying. It's gonna lose me. But yeah, I mean, opera is like and I heard that speaking of Freddie Mercury, that he was classically trained opera singer. I mean, you can hear when he's singing, that's opera training. And it just goes back to what you said at the beginning, that you have to, and a lot of the kids, I'm sorry to say, are not, that's what I was going to bring up. A lot of the kids today are not really doing that. They're just learning this one way of singing that everybody's copying. The same thing's happening in hip hop. Same thing's happening in R&B, that everybody's trying to sound like this one sound. And what do you think about like that now? Two things. Now you could like, I heard that Ariana Grande sings like a bunch of takes, and then a computer comes along and chops up all her takes and then puts them all together into the perfect take. So it's never, even when you're hearing her sing one line, it's not, that one line isn't one take. It's the auto-tune taking in all and trying to come up with the perfect line.
I haven't seen that done automatically. I've seen it done. Like, there's times. So what I'll do is I'll do a couple of passes on something. It depends. I've done, so there's maybe 2 songs on my album I did in one pass. They're the original vocals that I did for the first vocal ever. Right. So some people were impressed by that. Other people aren't. I don't mind as long as I feel it's getting the emotional content through. And
no, that's not what I'm talking about. Like, obviously, multiple takes that's old. That's in music a long time, right? But what I'm talking about is that the computer comes.
No.
And like you say, you do 10 takes, right? The computer comes and will like say the beginning of a word that you say, and it says like, oh, the way you ended the word isn't as good, but I'll take another ending of that word. And so it's like weird. It's almost, at the end of the day, it's not your word. It's not your voice anymore. And
I'm sure
I don't know if you saw this, but AI's coming along. An AI computer came out with a new song of Kurt Cobain and a new song of Amy Winehouse. The Amy Winehouse, it sounds like Amy Winehouse. It's not as good, but if you heard it, you would think, oh, it's unreleased Amy Winehouse. I mean, that's scary. And as a writer, that's coming to us too. Like, oh, you don't have to learn how to write anymore because now you have Grammarly. Like, no, fuck that. Like, a person will always sing better than a computer. And for me, a person will always write better than a computer.
I'd rather take 150 takes and get to where I have to go and or stop and revisit it than have to have somebody come and do all that. Like minor things, like the auto-tune's supposed to be used to correct certain things. Sometimes when the music's happening between you having, an earphone on, an earphone in, and you're trying to hear certain parts and you're doing it over and over and it's like a little bit off pitch. Okay, yeah, they're gonna do that. Like they're gonna smidgen it a bit so that you don't have to worry about doing that one particular thing 150 times, right? But like a whole line of phrase, like I don't want to chop up a phrase so much that I have to relieve that to the computer. Then you're doing it for me. Like, where's the technique? Where is the you know what I mean? Like I worked hard to do what I do. I want to do it well, and I'm not sitting here relying on things to be lazy. It's never going to be that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's my fear as a consumer of art, but as a creative person myself, is that we're going to start relying too much on technology, and art is human. Right, as far as I know, we're the only animal that can create art. I keep saying create art. And if we have technology in between, too much in between that, obviously you need a microphone, you need all kinds of stuff, right? But to be like you said, if I'm listening to Ariana Grande sing a line, and then what happens is that you go to her concert. I didn't, but my wife and my daughter went to her concert, and she wasn't that good. I mean, and it's because it's like, well, the product that you're listening to on a CD or on a song, that's been overproduced. That's the computer.
Correct.
You know what I mean? But thank you so much. I mean, I've had you like hostage in your car in again.
It's fine. A little sweat, a little glisten that helps, moisturize. I'm good.
Yeah. You gotta stay moisturized, man. But let everyone know where they can find you, find your music.
Yeah, I'm all over. I mean, if you need to look me up on any of the platforms musically, it's David Sosa. Journey to Love is the name of my album. And as far as IG and Twitter, the usual, it's at DAVSOS. And I'm on Facebook as David A. Sosa or D Sosa. You'll see my artist page and on my regular page. And that's it. Like, I'm here. I'm out here. If you Google me, you'll find a bunch of interviews and maybe some YouTube stuff of me singing different clips and things. So I'm around. I'll be here. I've been here, and I hope to just keep doing more. I want to make so much good music out here. I really do.
Well, keep it going, man. And like, if everybody go check out Solatree's Palante that's on YouTube. You did 2 beautiful performances. What were the 2 songs you performed?
I think I did Laugh and
Laugh. That was a good one.
I just performed last night at Drum live at a place because New York was finally opened back up completely. So it was the first gig for the year, really, in that essence. And I did a good job yesterday. I really felt good about my performance. So I'm waiting for the video footage to come through so I can edit some stuff and put some stuff out. So I'm excited about it. But,
well,
yeah.
It was a very a privilege talking to you. Very inspiring, man. Keep it up, man. And I follow you, so I will be liking, commenting, and sharing your stuff. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Likewise, my brother. Likewise,
have a good weekend, bro.
Thank you so much.
Take it easy.